Welcome to Your True Calling. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Dr. Michelle Chappell, a psychologist and a rock star. I've helped thousands of people find their true purpose by discovering their one-of-a-kind superpowers. Each week, I'll share tools and client success stories to help you find gifts you don't know you have so that you can thrive in a career that fills your soul and passion projects that make you feel whole. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be speaking to Dr. Steve Koch today. He is a successful chiropractor, yoga instructor, meditation instructor, and businessman. We're going to talk about how Steve discovered his true calling to be a chiropractor, and then a few callings after that, and why being spiritual is good for business. Let's get into it. Hi, Steve. I'm so happy you're on my podcast today.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, yeah. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I'm glad we're finally making it happen. So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So you are fascinating.
Thank you.
Yeah. You've been a chiropractor, you've been a yoga instructor, you've been a meditation instructor, and a successful businessman. And you've produced award-winning music, and you've written a book.
And an award-winning film. And yeah, I'm humble too, as you can tell.
So, you know what I'm really interested in, though? I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm very interested in the fact that you have a strong spiritual side. We know each other because we go to yoga together.
Yes.
We've had good conversations already. What I see, the spiritual side of you, and you combine it with your personal strengths, and you're able to create thriving businesses and, speaking tours and that sort of thing. So I want to kind of dig into that, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
The spiritual element of it has always been at the root, at the basis of pretty much anything I've done, anything that's been successful, at least. We're all multifaceted and have a lot of parts to us. So, I have a body, so there's all this physical stuff. I've got all the mind stuff going on, and there's a spirit or a soul or a being that I, when we say I, that's that inner core beyond our physicalness or our thought processes. So that's what I consider spiritual, that consciousness, that awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. And I think you're aware of it, and I'm aware of it. Not everybody else is. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it. And this podcast, by the way, is designed to help people find their superpowers, unique gifts or passions that come naturally to them, but they may not be aware of having them yet, or they may know they have these gifts, but they're not confident enough to use them. And I like to interview people like you who know their callings and their gifts, so that you can sort of serve as a little bit of a roadmap for listeners as they try to figure out their own path.
Okay.
Let's dig in. So I just wanted to say, I have interviewed a senior minister of a New Thought church in Oakland, and I've interviewed a best-selling author of books on Taoism, both spiritual people. And you were right in that camp, as far as I can tell. You're right there with them. So I just wanted to say, this is cool because I didn't dig in with them on this, and I want to. So what I find really interesting about you that you told me before, so I'm just going to start in here and then maybe backtrack a little bit, but you joined an ashram when you were a teenager.
I was 16, yes.
16. So could you just describe to listeners what drew you to do that?
Sure. Well, join an ashram, and ashram meaning a collective of people who are practicing a spiritual path together. Usually there's one teacher or head leader of an ashram, and students who are living there to study. It'd be akin to, say, if you're into martial arts and you were really into it, a whole bunch of you started a commune and moved in with the martial arts instructor. So you can dive deep, and your whole life starts becoming, based around that, because, you're living together, you're possibly working together, because if you're into alternative lifestyles or so forth, then you might find alternative ways to make money. Um, so then you do gatherings together and so forth. So you become very deeply involved with these people, and it allows you to take a deep dive into whatever practice you're wanting to go deeper with. It also has its pitfalls because we're humans and you throw a bunch of humans together and get them living together and have one person who's in charge and power goes to people's heads. And so there, I tell people the spiritual path is a dangerous path. Encourage people move into an ashram, join something like that, and then get out of it as too, because it's not meant necessarily for everyone to be on all the time. It's meant to be a stepping stone along the way. But for me, it was real quickly, it was a stepping stone of changing my lifestyle. I knew I needed a major pivot in my lifestyle. I had spiritual inklings from a small child, a sense of that there was something more than the physical world and what was being offered up, in day-to-day life. And that awareness had me just curious and always looking for things and looking for changes. And at a time in high school, this was, upper middle class suburban Detroit, in the 70s, major drug crisis going on. Um, the 60s had passed and the kind of hippie revolution didn't seem to take off. And now there was this new element of kind of disco and punk and things like that. And I didn't relate to that. And I was looking for something, anything. And one day a girl invited me to go to yoga class on a date. And I went to yoga class and it blew me away. I felt as high or higher than any substance ever got me. I felt relaxed. I felt a sense of community with the people. And I said, I want more of this.
Mm.
And I got deeply involved. And um, to the point where I was involved for 15 years before I was like, okay, time to graduate, time to be, an independent spiritual being and stop following other people's paths and find my own path and how to live that. So that's kind of in summing it up quickly.
Yeah. Well, so how old were you when you got an invitation to your first yoga class?
I was 16.
You were 16. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad you brought up your awareness of spirituality when you were younger. Did you feel supported for that by your family?
Yes and no. Um, I was given I was raised in Eastern Orthodox religion, which has a lot of mysticism. And so I was given a lot of support in that way, but the family was not thrilled about the Eastern approach because the ashram, the yoga, the chanting, the meditation, um, the whole Eastern path. I joined an ashram that was related with Sikhism, which is an Indian religion. And this was not Indian Sikhism. This was American. This was an Indian who created a splinter sect and opened 100 ashrams around the country. And I just got affiliated with one of them there in Detroit. And so at first, my parents were pretty freaked out about it. But since they were always supportive of spiritual development, they saw what was happening and how I had changed elements of my life. Perfect story is that they told me that their friends would say things to them like, "Oh, we're so sorry about, you know, because my brother joined too. So we're so sorry about your boys. They're doing this weird thing. We're so sorry." And my parents just looked at these other parents and said, "Are you kidding? We know where our kids are every night. They're not taking any drugs. They're not drinking alcohol. They're not out riding around in cars doing crazy crap." They go, as weird as it is, they felt this sense of comfort of knowing that we had dedicated our lives to this to developing ourselves, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And they would stand up for us to people who tried to pity them or say, "Oh, your kids are into crazy stuff."
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. You, in 1975, became a health and wellness educator, and you were a yoga instructor and a meditation instructor. Were you learning how to do that at the ashram? Is that how you
Yes,
were able to become
yes.
that? Okay.
It was a different world then. There were no teacher training programs of 200 or 500 hours and no certificates and international yoga associations. We were thrown right into it. My training was I had come to half a dozen yoga classes, and the head of the ashram said, you're all teachers now. You know something. Teach what you know. And what we're doing is we're going to go to the boys' prison, the Maxi detention facility, it was called, in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And we all packed into vans. And on the way there, he gave us a little 2-minute talk about how to approach people. And then I was 16 years old, maybe I was 17 by then. Um, and then we got taken to this prison and thrown in with the kids who were my peers, literally my age, and we're supposed to mingle around with them and say, "Hey, who wants to do some yoga? Who wants to do some breathing?" And so that was my start as a yoga teacher. That was the first class I taught was in a prison after, like I say, I had 6 classes myself and was thrown into it. So the attitude was like, if you know something, teach it, share it. Don't wait around till you think you've got it all figured out. Do it. And then the process that I've learned is that by teaching something, I really master it and understand it and get the real core of it. So yeah,
I totally relate to that because I used to be a professor, and sometimes I would have to teach material that I didn't know as well as other material, and I didn't want to teach something I didn't understand. I think actually that's a great way to do it too, because I think people can pick up on the energy that you bring to something when you are living it and teaching it at the same time versus
right, right.
reciting it from, memory because you've done it so many times before.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
I want to switch over into how you became a chiropractor. So you have a doctorate of chiropractic
Yes.
from the Life Chiropractic College
Hmm.
in Marietta, Georgia.
Yep.
And I used to ride on a school bus through Marietta Square every day on my way to parochial school. I love Marietta. Anyway, tell the listeners why that was the chiropractic college that you wanted to go to.
There's a number of chiropractic colleges around the country, and at the time in the late 70s, Life Chiropractic College was just being formed. And they had sent out like emissaries, ambassadors, whatever you call it, to go speak about the college to recruit students. And they happened to come to, again, I was in high school doing yoga. I was sneaking into the community college to do the classes, to go to yoga classes. And these chiropractors happened to be there on career day talking about their school they were promoting. And the school, they had a slogan. Their motto was give for the sake of giving, serve for the sake of serving, and love for the sake of loving. And I'm like, whoa, there's a college that, their thing isn't like, fight, crush the opposing college or whatever, the mottos are from, you know, schools. And it's like, wow, what's this about? And the more I spoke with these doctors and found out what their lifestyle was like, they were making a living and serving people and providing natural health care, educating people, and it fit right in with yoga. At the time, I was an auto mechanic, and I thought, oh, hey, I could be a body mechanic. This is pretty cool. And but even the auto mechanic thing, I opened my own shop out of my parents' garage and used their garage and all the friends and family and neighbors. And I called it Conscious Car Care was the name of the company. And I put people on programs of maintenance and prevention, just like I then did as a chiropractor to help people take care of their cars. I created a whole system of like, what do the factories say? But then what do you really need to keep your car running and keep it going good? So I applied the spiritual concepts to being a mechanic because, I mean, these are concepts that can be applied to anything. You know, you
Mm.
don't have to be holding crystals and doing yoga to be spiritual. I mean, the most spiritual thing I think is just being kind to people and serving people and whatever. If you're working behind a counter or delivering the Amazon Prime, I have greatest talks with the Prime delivery guys. They're, so many loving people out there doing wonderful things, and they're living in their spirit. They're living in their heart. They're living in their awareness. They are aware that they're here right now, and they're really embodied in their lives. And that's a spiritual living, I think, when you're embodied in your body, but you're aware that you're a being and that this is what's going on. And I've totally lost the train of what we were
Oh,
talking.
no,
Oh,
I'm remembering it though. I actually want to
okay.
follow up with that because I'm assuming that that did not hurt your business as a auto mechanic. I'm assuming it probably helped your business. Is
Oh,
that right?
yeah.
Yeah,
People loved it because it was like, well, you mean I don't have to wait till it breaks down? I can do these preventative things, and you've got a whole system and charts and records, and you'll let me know when this is due. And so they felt taken care of. And it was a stress relief for them. And of course, everything we can do to relieve stress just takes our anxiety down and brings us back to our breath in the moment and is bringing everyone to consciousness. So,
which is beautiful. And you're also creating clients that want to come back to work
mhm,
in the future. So that's what I think a lot of people don't understand about combining spirituality and business, that they feel like they're opposites or they should be in silos. But the way you're
mhm,
describing it makes a lot of sense to me. That would draw people to you.
absolutely. The essence of spirituality for me is like love and service, kind of like the motto of the school, right? Giving, loving, serving. And if you apply that to any business, people are going to feel that, and they're going to feel the vibe, and they're going to feel cared for, you know, and so that it just helps. I think the same effort people put into trying to just like build just for the money, if you put the same amount of effort into feeding what your spirit needs, they come out the same, or you come out ahead doing it the more spiritual way.
Yeah.
It all takes a lot of energy. I mean, there's no kind of no thing like, oh, I meditated, now all the money's going to just come falling on me. It's like you meditated, now you're calm, now you can get out there and do the hard work.
Hello, dear listeners. I just wanted to take a pause and check in with you. I hope you are enjoying this conversation with Steve as much as I am. It turns out that being a spiritual person can be good for business. In fact, I would say that Steve's spirituality is a superpower. He can use breathing and meditation techniques to calm down and make better decisions and have more empathy for people. Now, that includes having empathy for clients and customers. He was successful as a chiropractor and as an auto mechanic because he did that. This has implications for those of us who are working in companies, especially if you're a leader or a manager. It's important to have empathy for your employees, too. The latest Gallup stats show that a whopping 49% of U.S. and Canadian employees are stressed out at work. In fact, 46% of U.S. employees are currently thinking about quitting their jobs. And 75% of Gen Z and millennials say they would ditch their jobs tomorrow for work that better supports their well-being. What is going on? This year, in 2024, U.S. employee engagement dropped to its lowest level in 11 years, with Gen Z and young millennials showing the greatest decline. One reaction to this could be just work. Damn it, that's the way we've always done it. I think it's important to listen to employees. According to McKinsey, the young adults feel the least cared about at work and the most disconnected from their organization's mission. They also worry the most about the lack of opportunities to grow professionally. McKinsey found that Gen Zers believe they are meant to achieve something, to do something big and important. And when they don't have that, they often feel an emptiness. They propose that to foster mental health, company leaders support employees in finding meaning and purpose in the workplace. Why does this matter? Why is this good for business? Because if your employees are disengaged, they don't come to work and they're not very productive. Rather than wagging a finger at them, you could have some empathy, listen to them, and see if you could change the workplace to offer more meaning and purpose. Okay, what about you? What does all of this have to do with you? I just want you to think back about what Steve said about his own spirituality. He grew up with mysticism in his family, but he was drawn to Eastern spirituality, to yoga and meditation. He found his own spiritual expression. And that is true in all cases, whether it is expressing yourself in art or in business. Often we get eclipsed by family roles and we don't show up as our true selves. We either hold ourselves back or we play a role that isn't appropriate to who we are. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I was in a writer's group a few years ago, and one of my best friends was a very, very good writer, but she couldn't seem to get herself to finish a novel that she had started. And I talked to her about it one day, and she said, well, my father is a writer, and I just feel like I'm in his shadow. I don't know how to overcome this block. It turns out what she needed to do was to find her own path in writing. What did she want to write about? What made her different from her father? Once she figured that out, she finished her first book and it was published, and now you can find it in Powell's and Barnes and Noble and Amazon. Family roles are not just about what our parents model to us about who we are. It's also roles that are divvied out to our siblings. I remember I first found out about this when I was 13 years old. I was fascinated by Debbie and Deanie, identical twins in my junior high school. They had long blonde hair and tanned athletic bodies and the whitest teeth I'd ever seen. They seemed like movie stars to me, and I used to follow them around. I wasn't stalking them or anything. I was curious about them. I was a budding psychologist. And I noticed something interesting. Even though Debbie and Deanie appeared to be identical, they behaved quite differently. Whereas Debbie seemed confident and down to earth, Deanie acted kind of ditzy, especially around guys. I couldn't figure it out. One day after our teacher handed graded exams back to us in class, I noticed that Debbie got a 97 and Deanie got a 93. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I wonder if Debbie was treated as the smart one in the family, leaving Deanie to be the stupid one. But that didn't make any sense to me because Deanie was intelligent in her own right. I mean, I scored a 92 and I was smart. Then years later, when I was teaching my creativity workshops, I found the same thing with Bill. He was a top-notch journalist and he wanted to be a fiction writer. He'd already written for a living, so you'd think it would be easy for him to write fiction, but it was not. He struggled. The words would just not come. This really eluded me until the day we talked about the impact of family roles in our lives. So Bill said one day in class that his brother was the artist in the family. He had written several plays. He was really good. He was a gifted painter and a costume and set designer. He was one of the creators of Pee-wee's Playhouse. And because Bill saw his brother as the artist in the family, he could not see himself as an artist. And that is what was blocking him from writing. Once he was able to realize that he could be his own artist, that he could write about different things, he was free. And he finished a novel and then another one after that. So that's how it works. So I want you to think about yourself for a moment. Is there something that you are interested in doing, but for some reason you just don't seem like you can do it? Like maybe somebody else is better at that than you, somebody in your family, maybe even somebody in your circle of friends, so you don't try it yourself. I can tell you that everyone was born with a different set of gifts and a different purpose in this world. And you have your own special slant. Nobody else has that but you. And just like Steve had to find his own path in spirituality that was different from his parents. I'm giving you an invitation to find your own path with whatever it is that is calling you forward. So think about it for a minute. Is there something that you've always really wanted to do, but you somehow blocked yourself from doing it because somebody did it better or somebody told you you couldn't do that? Think about it for a moment. I give you permission to be who you are. I give you permission to find your gifts and express yourself as you truly are. I worked with one woman who scribbled in her notebook when she was at hospice working with clients there. She never thought of herself as an artist because her sister had paintings up in museums, and it turns out that she also was good at drawing, but she drew little doodles. She had a different way of expression. Do you see what I mean? What's yours? It doesn't have to be in art. It doesn't have to be in writing. It doesn't have to be in spirituality. What calls to you? No one can do that the same way you would. Trust me. Give it a try and see what happens. Next, we're going to talk about how working with Michael Jackson led Steve to create a thriving chiropractic business in Beverly Hills and what it really means to lead a rock star life. Let's go.
I remember you told me when we were talking earlier that what you liked about the Marietta College, Life Chiropractic College, was that it integrated mind, body, spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about being a chiropractor. So
Okay.
what's it about? Who do you work with, and what do they come to you for?
Well, I've been doing it for 45 years. I guess what I'm asking, what phase of the practice are you talking about? Because it's a long arc.
Right after getting your degree.
Yeah. Let's go back to the superpower concept real quickly, because
Yeah.
I've meditated on this a bit, and I think one of my superpowers is that I've learned to rely on and accept help and support from others, and not think I have to just do it all my own and blaze the trail and be stubborn about people giving me advice. So I pay attention to what people tell me, and if I have an opportunity that I can get involved in, I do, and I get involved and serve. And my trick has been to make myself invaluable in a situation so they want to keep me around. So there was a chiropractor in Atlanta ahead of me who was already in practice, and I started going and hanging out at his office and doing the menial tasks around the office and learning how to set up my own business. And then it became a natural thing to flow into, just stay there and work once I graduated. And so I instantly had access to patients who knew me because they knew me from being around the office, from either taking an x-ray or filing their insurance claim or something. And that just started building a practice from that, along with I was teaching yoga classes and doing my own activities that I like to do for hobbies and just meeting people. I talk to everybody, as you might have noticed at
Yeah.
yoga class.
Yeah.
I just chat with everyone. I just like to talk to people and hear what they have to say. And eventually they go, "Oh, you're a chiropractor? Well, oh, I hurt here or something." So it's pretty much average practice like other people had, but maybe a little spiritually based, people looking for the yoga or the meditation and so forth.
Mhm.
And from that, I had an opportunity where I got introduced to a famous celebrity, and he liked what I was doing and said,
You can say his name.
I can say his name. So I met Michael Jackson right when he was starting the Victory Tour, which people called the Thriller Tour, mistakenly, but that was on that album that came out. So it was 84, height of his fame, and I was introduced to him by a friend, and he found out I was a chiropractor and asked for some treatment, and then said, "Here's where I'm going to be for the next 6 months. Come on tour with us." And I did one of those, like, "Oh, well, I don't know. I've got to practice, in Atlanta, and I'd have to leave that." When inside of me, I'm just like, "Oh, yes, yes, yes," but trying to play it cool.
Yeah.
And he just pointed, he goes, "See that guy in the corner there? Just tell him whatever you need, and we'll give it to you. And you're going to be with us for the next 6 months on the road." So I traveled all over with him and his family and all their friends. And of course, I didn't just treat him because like I guess say I talked to everybody. I just like to be involved and like to connect.
Mhm.
And by the time 6 months was over, you know, pretty much this tour of, a staff of more than 100 people was treating most of them. And the tour ended, and Michael said, come, move to Beverly Hills and we'll send you everyone we know. And he had already done that for me. I'd already had this whole traveling practice, and they were all going to land in LA when it ended anyways. So um, I was like, I joke and say I only knew 5 people in LA, but they were the Jackson Five. So why the hell not take a chance? But truly, I had, all his family and their friends and these other celebrities, like sports stars and TV and other musicians and people. So I landed in LA literally at the top with a complete celebrity practice already intact, just needing a place to work. And so I didn't have to climb the rung like, some of these people talk about they go to LA and they're standing at a phone booth waiting for their phone call from their agent and stuff like that. It's like I kind of landed at the top and did 10 years there and met more people and had a great time and then burnt out on it.
I often see this with people when they do start to follow their calling, they start to use their superpowers, things
Mhm.
start working out.
Mhm.
It seems like it was like somebody was saying, here's a path, come follow it. And it worked out. So I just wanted to say that for you, but also for listeners, that that's kind of how it works often for people. When you start to find that groove that you were meant to
Mhm.
in the first place, things kind of take off.
That's where I think meditation, or you don't even have to use that word, just say being present and being calm and being in the moment, it pays off because and there's all these sayings like luck is when preparation meets opportunity, but we miss the opportunities all the time because if we're not present. And so being in the moment, it's like it allowed me to notice things like, okay, here's an opportunity, and just breathe and see where it's going to take me. So that paying attention is very, very important. Being present, paying attention. And the simplest thing, just as a tip for people, is remembering that the mind follows the breath.
Mm.
So if the mind is just not here, come back to the breath, breathe. And the first thing to breathe is not inhale, exhale. Get all the old air out, and then naturally the new air comes in. People say, inhale and breathe. It's like, no, you can't fill a full glass of water. You want to get it out and then reprime it and get it going.
You talked about how you ended your chiropractic practice, and maybe this is another place where you can give some good advice because we were talking
Hmm.
about. You want to talk about that? You sort of had a wake up call, being a chiropractor of the stars.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, a couple of ways. One was I was sensing already that I wasn't satisfied, that there was no end to climbing the success ladder. No matter how, I felt like I'd made my dreams. I'm driving down the palm tree lined streets of Beverly Hills in my convertible and thinking, wow, I wanted this since I was a little kid watching the Beverly Hillbillies on TV. I want to be driving down those streets. I want to, so these old dreams. That's another thing about paying attention to our mind. We set things in motion, and sometimes they take years and they come around again. And so things we're thinking now are setting up things that are happening, are going to happen. So paying attention and being attentive to the thought process is an important part of a yogic or spiritual practice. But I was already feeling the dead endness of the like I say, going after success and so forth. I didn't have any talent, so to speak, of to make it in the entertainment business. So I knew I wasn't going to be able to get to that point, like all my clients who would just open up their mail and be like, "Oh, another check for 50,000 from royalties," and just toss it aside. I was making my money, one patient at a time, over and over again. But a couple things happened. I realized there was a dead end to it. And I'm not sure if that's what you're referencing about, living the life of a rock star, or if it was the wake up call that I was misdiagnosed and told that I was going to be dead in a month. And that's a good one to do, even just as an exercise. Say, oh, what if I was told that? What would you do with your life? Well, I was really told it. And what did I do with my life? I changed it again, kind of like back when I was 16, and shifted radically from being, a wild party kid running around Detroit to becoming uh, a yogi in an ashram. And so I changed my life radically and said, first thing I do, I've got to get out of Southern California and go someplace where it's kind of more sane. And I looked all over. I spent a long time looking all over, found Oregon, fell in love with it, and saw that, I could actually live within certain means, like lower my expectations, without having to keep up with, when you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, but they're Quincy Jones and Grace Jones, it's a little hard. So it's a matter of saying, what is enough? It's like a Taoist thing. He who knows what enough is will always have enough. And I decided what would be enough. What is a standard that I can live with? And I paid attention to these rock stars and thought, what do they really want? They're always talking about they want to be home. They're tired. They love the road. Most likely it's an addiction to being on the road and the thrill of the road. But they really, when I would have conversations heart to heart, and they would just be saying, I wish I was home. I wish I was with my family. I was with my friends, just hanging out at the diner, having lunch, playing some music, and, hanging out, and not waking up to an alarm, not having people, you know, wanting my attention 24/7. And I thought, I want to just have that lifestyle without having to go all the way to the top and then crash down to the bottom. I can decide what's enough and set my life up that way. So I moved to Oregon, and I was burnt out on chiropractic a bit. So I looked for other things to do too. And I did some other fun things. I spent actually a couple of years doing some really interesting, fun things. I was a director of a microbrewery, um, and I promoted concerts and put on festivals and shows. And I took up art and music and writing. And so I said, I want to do some creative things myself. So when I finally started missing chiropractic, because my true calling and my real gift is involved in healing, teaching, ministering, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same to me, whether you're a teacher, a doctor, a minister, it's all a healer. It's all the same process. You can use different techniques, but it's comes down to just doing this one thing, you know, trying to leave things better than I found them. And I missed working with people that directly, that connected with that deep connection with that I did through my chiropractic practice. And which, of course, like you pointed out, I'd gotten very involved in people. What is your life? What are you eating? How are you exercising? What are your thoughts? What's your living situation? What's your spiritual practice? What are you doing to feed your awareness, your soul? And I missed that so much, and I started practicing again here in Oregon. But I decided I'm only going to work 3 days a week. So my creative life and my personal life is always going to be more than my work life. I'm going to have at least 4 days that, and only 3 days of work, and for that. And although those 3 days I worked from 8 to 6, I put in long days, but it was enough to make enough money because I'd moved to a place that didn't have Los Angeles prices attached to it to try to just survive. Bought some acreage and lived out in the country. And another thing about things coming full around, my dad came out to help me gut this house, old farmhouse, and refix it. And one day we're standing out there, and he just goes, "You've been wanting this since you were a teenager." And I said, "What?" He goes, As a teenager, all you talked about was going back to the land and living on a farm and living and, having llamas and animals and all this stuff. I didn't even remember that." He goes, you wanted this since you were a kid, and now you're 40 and you've got it." And so it's like things kind of come around full circle in funny ways sometimes.
wow, I'm just taking that in. You manifested a dream you had when you were very young. You weren't
Hmm.
even aware of it. And you have a parent who is watching your journey,
Hmm.
who gives you that important perspective. Wow.
Hmm.
Sounds like your parents saw you.
Yeah, they were fantastic. I mean, I can't say enough good things about them. My mom always was encouraging me to be a doctor or a priest, one or the other. Could be doctor or a priest, and she was always encouraging me to do that.
Kind of went right in between the chiropractor.
Yeah.
So interesting. Well, do you have, just thinking about people who might be listening right now who don't know what their path is, maybe don't know what their gifts are, do you have any thoughts to share with them, any advice based on your own experience or what you know as a meditator and a spiritual person and a chiropractor?
Don't be afraid to be bored, and don't shy away from uncertainty, not knowing, because there's so much richness in that time where it's like it's all gone. It's like don't wait till you hit bottom in like a crisis, but you can have these little bottoms where you're at the point where you're bored. You don't know what to do with your life. Nothing seems to be happening. Sit still. Sit still and kind of watch and pay attention. We always want to get more distractions. If you're bored, turn something on, scroll something new. It's like let yourself be bored. Let yourself be unsure. I mean, I took up music in my 40s. And just decided I just want to try this. And same with writing and painting and these things. And I've had the most wonderful time. And so much of it has been completely starting from scratch, beginner's mind, having no idea what I'm doing and hitting failure after failure and just going, okay, well, that didn't work, but then let me try something different. So I'd say don't be afraid of boredom. Don't be afraid of failure. I think some of the greatest things in my life have come out of failure.
Wow. Steve just offered such wise advice there. I have very little to add. I love the idea of emptying your lungs first before you take a breath in. I love the idea of being in the moment. I love the idea of being bored and just looking at your life, taking the time to feel that and sink into the moment and see what opportunities might come up for you. What would you do if you could not fail? I mean, the whole point of that exercise is to try something despite that fear and see what happens. That's how we learn and grow. I also love the idea of having a superpower to connect with people. We often think of superpowers as, like an artistic ability or being a natural leader, but there's also being a natural networker or just naturally having charisma. It can be a way of being, not just a talent. It's important to understand that if you want to know what your own superpowers are. I'm good at teaching, and I'm also good at reading a room. I can feel people's energy. One's a more obvious gift than the other. What about you? Do you have something like that? And I really love the idea of coming full circle, especially looking back on your life. Sometimes we plant seeds really early that bloom many years later. All of it counts. All of it matters. There's just so much wisdom here. I put a link to Steve's metaphysical fiction book, The Seeker, in the show notes. Check it out. He's had an interesting life, as you can tell. Thank you so much, Steve, for sharing your wisdom with us today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening to Your True Calling. Please leave a review and share it with your friends. From my website, yourtruecalling.org, you can follow me on social media, learn more about my music and my coaching, contact me to find your superpowers live on the air, and help me produce future episodes by funding me on Patreon.